Dear viewers, welcome back to my channel. In this video, there will be discussion on the theoretical aspects of a limited liability partnership. Kindly watch the video till the end, like it and share and subscribe the channel. If you have any comments about the video, please put your comments in the comment box. Now, let us go to presentation. So let's have an introduction about the limited liability partnership firm. There are many business enterprises which are contributing for the economic development of the country. With the growth of Indian economy, the role played by its entrepreneurs as well as its technical professional manpower has been acknowledged internationally. Due to the Industrial Revolution, implementation of 5-year plans and LPG policy, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization, the number of companies in India has risen tremendously. This limited liability partnership firm, it is an alternative to the traditional partnership firm. The traditional partnership firm has many shortcomings or the drawbacks, and such drawbacks were overcome by this limited liability partnership firm. The limited liability partnership firm is governed by an act called as Limited Liability Partnership Act of 2008. Now let us understand what is meant by limited liability partnership firm. Limited liability partnership firm or limited liability partnership firm, or in short LLP, is a body corporate with a distinct legal entity separate from its partners. It has perpetual succession and a common seal. In other words to say, when it is analyzed the meaning of this definition or of the LLP is a body corporate. So it is registered under a particular act called as Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008. It has a separate legal entity. Men may come, men may go, but the institution goes on forever. So it is not affected by any death, insolvency, insanity of the partner. So it is totally free from its partners. Even though if something happens to a particular partner, but this firm goes on operating. It has a perpetual succession and a common seal here. It can sign and it can enter into contract, it can sue others, it can be sued by others with the help of this common seal. In other words to say, a limited liability partnership firm has unlimited corporate far beyond any company can control at present under the Companies Act here. So it is more or less equal to a company here. Let's understand what are the objectives of a limited liability partnership. It's a new corporate form of doing business and profession. The following are some of the objectives of the LLP. It is an establishment which caters the needs of the professionals like chartered accountants, engineers, doctors, lawyers. We can say that the limited liability partnership firm is more concerned with service related, whereas the earlier partnership firm, it was much concerned with trading. The one more objective of LLP is to promote the small scale sector which contributes major share in the economic development of the country. Then to expand venture capital funds by way of forming LLP. These venture capital funds finance equities to the startup companies. Today there is a greater demand for startup, so many firms have started even at the local level also under this, so they can be financed by these VCFs, that is venture capital funds, by formation of the limited liability partnership firm. The another objective is to develop innovative business models in order to bring new activities in the fold of Indian economy. So when it leads to the varieties of the business enterprises in the economy, ultimately it contributes for the development of the economy. Then to set up multidisciplinary partnership firm. Why it is a multidisciplinary partnership firm? Because it is a body corporate. So even the corporate organization can form a partnership firm and they can be convert themselves into a limited liability partnership firm. Then features of LLP. Here the LLP Act 2008, which provides certain features of limited liability partnership firm. This LLP enjoys a perpetual succession. It is not a time bound here. Men may come, men may go, but the institution goes on forever. Then it protects its partners from joint liability. In the traditional partnership firm, the partners were jointly and severally liable. For the mistake or for the fraud committed by one person, even the others were also responsible. But in case of the LLP, all the partners, they are protected from the joint liability. So these partners are not jointly and severally liable in case of limited liability partnership firm. Their liability is limited to the extent of the share agreed by them to contribute. If they contribute that much, then their liability becomes nil. To give an example here, assume that an individual has agreed to contribute rupees of 5 lakhs as his share of capital. So if an individual contributes rupees of 5 lakhs as his share of capital, then his liability becomes nil here. Then in case of this LLP, there is a flexibility of organizing their internal management. I mean to say here, the management of the partnership firm can be done by a few individuals or by a few body corporates, whereas the others need not much worry about the business here. Then it has a separate legal entity. It is totally different from its partners. A partner may die, or he may retire, or a partner may goes insane, or a partner may declare as insolvent. Such events of the partners will not affect the continuity of LLP here. So once it is registered, it is a registered body which will be continued and which is not affected by the events of the individual partners on its continuity of the business. Then it has a mixed membership. Here, mixed membership in the sense, even an individual along with the body corporate can also form a partnership firm. For example, a traditional partnership firm and a private company can also form an LLP. Or say, for example, an individual the individuals and a partnership firm, a private company can also form this kind of a partnership firm. Or for example, a cooperative society and the individuals can also form a partnership firm. So here it has got a mixed membership. Then it has two designated partners. Among these two designated partners, preferably individuals, and one of such designated partners must be a resident of India. Then the one more feature, if please look into the audit of the limited liability partnership firm, the audit of accounts compulsorily only if the contribution exceeds rupees 25 lakhs or the annual turnover exceeds rupees of 40 lakhs. So if the contribution is lesser than this year, it will not demand for the audit of the accounts of the limited liability partnership firm. Then the government has allowed foreign direct investment in LLPs, and as a result of that, today it is found in India that many companies are coming to India and they are manufacturing in India. So that is what we call it as a made in India is becoming more popular today. So this foreign direct investment has widely spread in all the sectors of the economy today, and which has risen to the formation of many LLPs. Now let's make a distinction between a traditional partnership firm with a limited liability partnership firm. So when this looked into the governance of the Act, a LLP is governed by the provisions of the 2008 Act, that is Limited Liability Partnership Act of 2008, whereas the traditional partnership is governed by the provisions of the Indian Partnership Act of 1932. Then in case with respect to the number of members, the minimum number of members is required 2 in case of limited liability partnership, and there is no maximum limit for the number of members in case of LLP. Whereas in case of traditional partnership firm, the minimum number of members is 2, which remains same with even LLP also. But whereas the maximum number of members is 10 in case of banking business and 20 in case of other businesses. Then in case of a limited liability partnership, as it is previously explained, it is a mixed partnership. That means individual and body corporate can be the members of the LLP, whereas in case of the traditional partnership, only the individuals can be the members. A limited liability partnership enjoys a perpetual succession, whereas in case of traditional partnership firm which does not enjoy perpetual succession. Suppose if a partner dies, then there should be a change in the constitution of the firm. Assume that if a partner is newly admitted, it leads to change in the constitution of the member. Assume that if a partner is declared as insolvent, it leads to change in the constitution of the firm. Then in case of LLP, there is no, partners are not jointly and severally liable. Whereas in case of traditional partnership, all the partners are jointly and severally liable. Assume that if somebody has borrowed loan in the name of the firm, in such case all the partners will be held responsible for the repayment of the such loan. If they do not make the payment of the liability, in such case, even their personal properties are held responsible. So one more point of distinction what we can make here, in case of the LLP, the liability of the members is limited to the extent of the share agreed by them to contribute. Whereas in case of traditional partnership firm, the liability of the partners is unlimited. Even the personal properties are accountable or subject for the repayment of the loan of the firm also. Then the accounts of the LLP are prepared in a vertical format, whereas in case of the traditional partnership firm, the accounts are prepared in a horizontal format. In case of LLP, the cost of formation is very high when compared to the cost of formation of the traditional partnership firm. In case of the traditional partnership, if simply all the partners agree to the terms and conditions, and if they put their signature on the partnership, that's enough. Whereas in case of LLP, it requires a compulsory registration under the Act here. Let's now discuss the advantages and disadvantages, or the merits and demerits of limited liability partnership firm. Now let us go for the advantages. Separate legal entity. Here the LLP is totally different from its members. Member may come, different from its partners. Partner may come, partner may go, but here the LLP goes on forever. If something happens to a partner, that will not affect the continuity of the business here. Then the LLP provides a flexibility in operations. Say either they can, we all can also participate in the affairs of the concern, or only a few may actually participate in the affairs of the concern. And the liability of the members is totally limited here. It is not joint liability. Partners are not jointly and severally liable here. So if they contribute the agreed share of their contribution, then their liability will be nil. then a perpetual succession. So here the business is not at all affected by the life of the partners here. A partner may die, a partner may admit, a partner may dissolve, so the LLP continues forever. Then in case of one of the greatest advantages of the LLP is that there is no limit for maximum number of members, while minimum is 2, which remains same with the traditional partnership also. But in case of the maximum number of members, there is no limit. It is as good as a public limited company. Now let's look into the other face of the coin, that is disadvantages. A LLP cannot raise funds from the public. As per the provisions of the Limited Liability Partnership Act, it cannot raise the funds by issue of shares and debentures from the general public to finance their ventures. So it has to depend upon the contribution by each partner here. Then there is a lack of secrecy as the data is available on the website. In case of the earlier partnership firm, they are not publicly accountable, but here in case of the LLP here, they are publicly accountable, as their accounts are to be published on the website of the LLP here. Even a common layman can access to the information, or they can access to the financial data of such public limited of such LLPs here. Then in case of LLP, there is no admission to a minor. Suppose, for example, a person who is less than 18 years of age cannot enter into the contract. But in case of the earlier partnership firm, even a minor can also be a partner. But here, such a minor cannot become a partner in case of LLP here. Then the another disadvantage of LLP is that there is no separation of management from the owners. The owners himself, they are the managers. But in case of a company organization, shareholders are totally different from the managers. So where in case of the company, management and ownership are different from each other. But here the persons who are the owners of the firm, they are themselves involved in the managing the affairs of the concern. Then it has a low public perception. Though the act was enacted in 2008, even after say 13 years also, it has not become much popular as compared to the other types of the enterprises here. Basically the disadvantage of this LLP is that it cannot mobilize the funds from the general public here. Now let us look into the designated partners. Here the role of designated partners is most important in managing the affairs of the concern of LLP. As per the provisions of the Limited Liability Partnership Act of 2008, at least there should be 2 designated partners, of whom one must be an Indian resident. Here Indian resident means an Indian resident is one who stays in India for a period of 182 days or more during the preceding year or during the previous year. And such designated partners are those partners who shall be the individuals. Please do remember here, the designated partners are only the individuals, and at least one shall be the resident of India, and they are responsible for the regulatory and legal compliances besides their liability as a partners here. So that's why I said the role of designated partners is most important. They are accountable for all the regulatory matters and the legal compliances. If something goes wrong, these designated partners are held responsible. And every designated partner must obtain that is DPIN, which stands for Designated Partner Identification Number, from the central government. And this DPIN is an 8 numeric digits allotted by the central government in order to identify a particular partner. At least one designated partner should obtain the digital signature certificate from the government recognized digital signature authority here. So now let's look into the accounting procedure here. So only two statements are prepared by every LLP in order to find their profit or loss on a particular date. So they have to prepare two statements called as a statements of assets and liabilities and a statement of income and expenditure here. Here this is statement of assets and liability is nothing but just like a balance sheet, but which is in a vertical format. As per the provisions of a LLP Act 2008, every LLP should prepare the statement of accounts and solvency in the prescribed form for every financial year and submit them with the registrar. Here the statement of assets and liabilities shows the true, fair and correct financial position of the partnership firm as on a given date. It should be prepared in the vertical form but not in the horizontal form. Then here how this statement of in assets and liabilities will appear. It will be divided into basically two parts. Part A is called as a contribution and liabilities. In a very simple words to say, this is the liability side of the balance sheet, whereas the part B is considered as the assets. So in case of the part A, we have got the two heads, basically partners contribution and liabilities here. In case of partners contribution, that contribution may be in the form of two things. One is a contribution, that is a capital, and another one is the balance which is available in the reserves and the surplus account. So in the contribution, there can be the capital balance of the each partner will appear, and it will be added by the share of profit, interest on capital, and the same shall be reduced by the amount of the drawings, then drawings here, so that we are going to ultimately arrive at the contribution. In case of reserves and surplus, it is nothing but the balance of general reserve. If any amount is transferred during a particular year, so if the certain portion of the profit, the same will be added to this balance here, and if it utilized during any previous year, then the same shall be reduced here. And even if the profit sharing ratio of the partners is not available here, then in the surplus is added to the reserves and surplus here. Then the next one comes here, secured under the liabilities we have got the first one as secured loans. Here secured loans are those loans which are secured by the assets of the company. In other words, to say, if the LLP fails to make the repayment of such loans here, and in such case the creditor can sell the assets secured by such loans and he can recover his dues here. So such secured loans may be sometimes it may be like from the banks and others. Say for example, while borrowing the loan from the bank, a building may be given as a security. So if the LLP fails to make the payment of such repayment of such loan here, then the banker can sell the building and can recover his loan here. So such loans, what we call it as secured loans here. Then unsecured loans. Here unsecured loans, again it may be borrowed from the banks and others, and these loans are borrowed without providing any kind of securities here. Then we have got a short-term borrowings. Here short-term loans are those loans which are due for payment of not more than 12 months from the date of the statement here. That means it is the purpose of borrowing such loans is for a very short period. The repayment will be less than 12 months. Say such loan can be repaid either after 3 months or after 6 months, or within a maximum period of borrowing will be only 12 months or only 1 year here. Then the next one comes here. We have got other liability, creditors here. Here in case of the creditors, we have got a trade payables or advance from the customers. So all these will be recorded here, and these trade payables includes the amount payable to suppliers of the goods or services, or advance from customers includes the amount received from them against the order for supply of goods or rendering service to them here. Then the next one comes here, other liabilities. In case of other liabilities, we have got interest outstanding on the borrowing, or it may be like interest accrued but not due on the borrowings. Then income received in advance, or it may be like unpaid or the outstanding expenses. So if there are any other such expenses other than this, it is to be specified here. Then the provisions here. Here provision is nothing but a part of the profit which is set aside for some reasons here. So such provisions called as a specific provision, and there are some a certain part of the profit which is kept aside without any against any purpose here. So such provisions they are called as a general provisions here. So in case of the provision may be kept aside for the purpose of taxation, or it may be for the purpose of contingencies, or it may be for the purpose of other reasons. And the provisions included amount provided for income tax, provision for employees benefits such as salary, wages, bonus, allowances, gratuity, pension, etc. here. So all these what we call it as provisions here. Then the other part here, the fixed assets. In case of fixed assets, so all these fixed assets will be shown here after deducting the amount of the depreciation. If there are any additions or if there is and deductions during the year, they should be adjusted accordingly here. Then investments here. Here investments, it is in investment made in terms of a government or trusted securities, or it may be like in the form of other investments. The total amount of quoted and unquoted investment should be shown in the market, and the market value of quoted investment also be shown here. Then the next one comes here, loans and advances. Here the loans outstanding for more than 6 months and others should be shown separately here. The loans and advances should also be classified into good, doubtful and bad. The provision for bad and doubtful debt should be deducted from the loans and advances here, or from the debtors here, whatever it may be. Then inventories. Here the inventory is nothing but the clothing stock of raw materials, work in progress or finished goods, or even it may be like a spares, stores, loose tools, etc. here. Then the debtors here, it is nothing but trade receivables or advances to supplies here. If there is any provision for doubtful debt, it should be deducted from such balance here. If advance to suppliers is the amount paid them against the order for the supply of goods or services. Then the next one, I think it is missing here, the cash and cash equivalents. It's just like it is cash in hand, balance with banks, checks, drafts on hand, others, etc. All those things must be specified here. So it is the statement of assets and liabilities. Now we have another statement that is called as a statement of income and expenditure for the year ending. So here the income, we have got the turnover. Turnover is nothing but the sales. If any custom duty has been paid, and such custom duty should be deducted from the turnover. Then other incomes, if there is such like a interest earned on investment, or it may be like interest on deposits, bank deposits, etc., that should come here. Then increase in the stock. So you should compare the opening stock and the closing stock. If there is an increase in the stock here, then it should be recorded here. If there is a decrease in the stock, then it is to be deducted here. So then the expenses here, we have got purchases. Then in case of the purchases here, purchase of raw materials, finished goods, etc., that will come here. Then in case of the personnel, if there are any returns, the same shall be deducted here. Then personnel expenses. Here the personnel expenses are incurred with respect to the employees in the organization. It may be like salaries and wages, bonus to staff, contribution to PF and other funds, gratuity and pension. Then staff welfare expenses, allowances, then like festival allowances, etc., provided to the employees, or any kind of the allowances provided to the employees, that should be recorded, not festival allowances here. It is allowances. Then administrative expenses, wherein we have got like expenses incurred for administrating things here, like rent and rates, printing and stationery, or it may be like a postage and telephone expenses, light charges, then sundry expenses here. Then selling expenses here, advertisement expenses here, sales commission, traveling expenses to salesmen, carriage on sales, discount to customers. Any expenditure which is concerned to increase the amount of the sales here, that all they must be recorded here. Then the next one comes here, depreciation. Depreciation on fixed assets, or it may be like amortization of certain assets. So all those things must be recorded here. Then interest, that is interest on the loans, then interest on deposits, etc. That must be recorded here. Then in case of the other expenses, loss and sale of investments and others, if any, they must be recorded here. Then provision for tax, others, then you are to be specified here. So the difference, what we are going to get, the profit after tax, and if the profit is shared among in the profit sharing ratio, the same must be subtracted here, and the balance, if any, after sharing such a profit and loss, so it must be transferred to reserve here. So this is how the statement of income and expenditure is to be prepared here. Thank you for watching this.